In this video lesson, we will continue to talk about Blender and to create our character, to do character design, but we're gonna leave the sculpting part and we're gonna start to paint on our model, on the parts of our model. So what we did so far with the sculpting is getting smaller and smaller with details until we reach kind of a limit. Now this depends on your level of detail you want to achieve, depending on if you want to do like video game or something for rendering, or if you want to print in 3D. You always have some limits of detailing. So you can see here in the body armor the detail that I applied with the stencil effect that we learned in the previous lesson can be more or less defined depending on how many polygons you use. So we saw basically how we can go from a really rough model and then continue to sculpt, and finally to use textures. Textures are images that we can use to apply patterns like in clothing, or we can use to apply like logos, graphic design, well, applied graphics. And we can use also some brush to decor, to create some decoration, and then use mesh filter to extrude them. And we can use masks to extrude, we can use face sets, we can use the mesh filter, the cloth filter, and so on. So all these tools combined together and mixed together, they can give you really a lot of options to create a lot of different type of accessories and clothing and bodies and so on. Now you can see here in the shield, the logo or the little dragon graphic here looks more blurred because we actually have less polygons on the shield than on the body armor, and this is the bottom line. So if you want more detail in the when you do sculpting with textures, when you use patterns, when you use logos, when you use graphic design, you always need to increase the level of subdivision. So you can see I've also modeled the bottom part here, giving some like hard-edged effect, but also some soft borders here, like leather borders. And those are the boots. So depending on the part of the model, you probably want to spend more time, you want to have a higher level of details, then you increase the level of subdivisions of polygons. We also did some sculpting with patterns using, again, the stencil effect and the brush. With the texture, we created different types of fabrics, something that could look like tech and high-tech clothing, or something that could look more medieval, like chainmail or things like that. We also applied some scars using the same stencils, and also some defects on the skin, so that everything doesn't look too uniform. The more defects you add, the better and more realistic your character will be. It will look like it has its own life. Now I used the face set to model these like decorations and other details. You can see they are not so small, so I didn't need too many polygons to create this, but if I want, I can create smaller and smaller, like runes or little letters or decorations, like you know, Vikings decorations on Gothic decorations, or Arabic decorations. But in this case, I just wanted to create something quick, so I've done some painting with the face sets, and then I use again the face sets to extrude or to inflate using the mesh filter. And then in the middle part, I create some random to have like a more rough surface. So I have these two different parts. One part is more rough, one part is more clean and neat. But right now what I'm doing is using the crease brush to add some scars, some defects on the metal, because, you know, especially body armors or something that has been into a battle can be so clean and perfect. So I'm like adding scratches, and these are not 2D scratches. This is not an effect. These are actually 3D details, 3D scratches. So you need to have a lot of details to do this, a lot of subdivisions, a lot of polygons. But in the end, it will look more realistic. Now I can use the same face sets that I've used here to define different areas of these elements of this body armor. I can use the same face sets later to paint with different colors on different areas. So painting is really similar to sculpting in terms of what options you can use, what parameters you can use. Now, techniques are just a little bit different, but I will explain techniques, tools, and everything in just a minute. I just wanted to show you here how we can create some more realistic effect on these pieces of armor because they look too perfect. So I think that when you want to switch from something that looks more cartoonish and more like like a 3D model to something more realistic, you need to add a lot of defects, a lot of details, something that tell stories. So little hints there, here and there. And what I'm doing basically with the sculpting that we're gonna leave soon is something that I can do actually with the painting. So I can paint scars, I can paint defects, I can paint worn out parts of the shield, of the armor, and I can paint scars on the body, I can paint defects of the skin, I can paint tattoos, I can paint wrinkles, I can paint whatever defect the skin at. Now you can see here we have a little bit of stretching of these polygons, so I'm gonna use the smooth as usual to smooth that out. And we have also a similar tool which is called blur in the painting. So now let's go in the object mode, and now we're gonna leave the sculpt mode and we're gonna move from the object mode, which is the standard, to the vertex paint. We also have texture paint, which is a little bit different when we paint on the mapping of the character, but we're gonna talk about it later. We're gonna focus here on the different painting tools that we have. And by painting, we mean to paint directly on the subject. So you can see here, I'm in Vertex paint, I'm selecting the standard brush. And what I also wanna do is change the type of material, because this one here is good for sculpting. It looks like clay, but here I want something more natural, like white color, plain white, because I need to actually see the color that I'm painting and not like something that it's a mix between the material and the color. So I want to use a plain white or something really bright, really white. And you can see now I can see, for example, the red or the pink, because if we want to do human skin especially, we need pink. And so you can see here we have the strength. We can already change the radius, the strength. So it's like, again, using sculpting tools, but this time we are coloring. And just like we did with the sculpting, you can see here I'm not using the symmetry because I want to create some variation. If you create a uniform color which looks the same everywhere, it will not look realistic. So what you want to do is give some variation. You can do that first of all with the strength, because if you use the strength, the more you're going to paint on a particular part of your character, the more you're going to add the color. So the less you're going to paint, the less the color. And we can see we have brush, we have texture, we have different types of strokes, just like we discover in sculpting. So all the same techniques and the same parameters, they apply also for the painting. So I am not going to explain that part again. I'm just going to add some more information which are more specific for painting. But remember that everything we did so far with the sculpting, we can do it with the painting. It just doesn't change the 3D mesh. It just changes the color of the various polygons that we are working with. So we are painting on polygons essentially. So also here, if you have more polygons, you're gonna have more details, just like in sculpting. And I'm continuing here to paint. You can see I'm moving around because I need to paint the back of the ears and also the head and the back and the muscles. Now, if you want to leave some parts more like with highlights, you just need to paint less on those areas. They will look more highlighted.